Hello, welcome to the Week in Review. I am Mamadou Moch, and over the next 55 minutes or so, we'll take you through 10 of the biggest stories that shaped the preceding week in the Gambia and abroad, from historic developments in rural electrification and the launch of the digital government portal and mobile app, to cultural milestones like the Moroccan caftan being recognized by UNESCO. Will bring you in-depth analysis and context. And joining me in the studio is my colleague and the journalist Usman Jata, who covered some of the stories that we'll be delving into later. Together we'll break down the stories, aren't we, and see what it might mean for governance, culture, and the communities.
Indeed, I'm glad to join you again on this show after a long time, staying in China, and now I'm back in the country. So I'm hoping for a memorable experience.
Okay, cheers. Let's begin with a major development in the country's energy sector. President Barrow embarked on a week-long nationwide tour to inaugurate newly completed electricity access projects. Let's just take a look and listen.
The inauguration of these historic electricity projects is being hailed by beneficiaries as the fulfillment of a long-standing dream, bringing reliable electricity directly to rural communities. Large crowds turned out to welcome the president and witness what they described as an unprecedented moment in their community's history. The projects are implemented under major programs, including the Gambia Electricity Restoration and Modernization Project, the Gambia Electricity Access Project, and the Ecowas Regional Electricity Access Program, with support from partners such as the World Bank, European Union, European Investment Bank, African Development Bank, and Ecowas. The government said, according to Nani Juara, the Minister of Energy, Petroleum and Mines, the 720 communities covered under the rollout include 204 in North Bank region, 165 in Central River region North and South, 202 in the Upper River region North and South, 53 in Lower River region, and 96 in West Coast region. Speaking at the commissioning ceremonies in Jongon, North Bank region, and Panchang in Central River region, President Barrow said rural electrification is already transforming lives and creating new opportunities.
Let me assure the remaining 10% of our communities without access to electricity that my government has made concrete arrangements to provide electricity to every community by the end of 2026. To support this.
Yes, that was our colleague there, Aloisise, with that story. There we had the president there saying that the remaining 10% is that. Very interesting statement there, for the reason that it's telling us that now 90% of the country has got access to electricity. So how important is this inauguration?
I think this is a very important milestone for the Gambia's infrastructural development, because when we talk about development, we cannot sideline electrification, because you can talk about health, education, transport. You need electricity to boost all those sectors. So it is very important for the Gambia's economic development and infrastructural development too, because if you go to countries like China and other Western countries, electricity is one thing they have really harnessed, and today it is really contributing towards their development, because you talk about internet, you talk about, like I mentioned, health. So all those things matter. They all matter.
Absolutely, and ultimately we want to be like them.
Sure.
But here, 720 communities, well, I've seen sources that they've given 719, it doesn't matter. Spread across the country, North Bank region, Central River, URR, LRR, West Coast region.
Yeah.
A good thing, isn't it? Because for a very long time, people have complained about the urban bias when it comes to these developmental projects, but now we're spreading it around the country.
I'm not being political, actually, but I think one of the things you would commend the government of President Barrow is the issue of rural development, because far too long, the rural area has been sidelined to some extent. Now, we're talking about electricity. You go to places like the Kiang, in the past regime, when the electricity came from Fonyi and it reaches the Kiangs, it had to cross and go to the CRR. So you can see, the sideline they have got. But in terms of the electricity, electrification rate in the country, we have learned from Africa Channel that the Gambia's electrification rate has increased from 73% to 90% as of February 2026, which is a very significant achievement. Now, remaining 10%, which the president did mention, but we also understand that the government has managed to mobilize 552 million US dollars of funds to be able to complete this remaining 10%. But equally as well, we have seen in the 2026 budget, the government has improvised $400 million, to also join this other part of the dollar to make sure that they achieve the 10%. So it's like the government is really, really serious about meeting the Gambia's universal access to electricity by the end of 2026, as stated by President Barrow.
That's it. But some of us, we've been sort of reflecting on what it means, really, to have universal access. That's part of the development goals, isn't it?
Yeah,
The Sustainable Development Goals, that's number 7. Here, meaning ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. So here one would go back to here, what exactly do we mean by access? As some analysts have pointed out. Do we mean that everybody will be connected to a grid,
national grid,
which is one aspect, but the rest about the regular supply, the reliability, and that sort of thing? That is a different issue.
Indeed.
Wouldn't you say that it is important for one to really understand what is meant by access to universal access to electricity?
I think access is broad when it comes to access to electricity, because providing electricity to everyone is one aspect of the access to the national grid. But beyond that, the stableness of the electricity matters a lot. That is why the issue of renewable energy will come into play here. Are we investing into renewable energy? Yes, the government is investing into renewable energy, but not to the expected level, like in other parts of the country. That is one aspect of it. So the access as well, the price of the energy, is it affordable? The rate, all of that counts, and we have noticed in the past that most members of the public were complaining about the increase in tariffs of by NAWEC to some extent. So and NAWEC has also clarified based on different reasons that they did such things actually. So I think the issue of access will come, with time. It's a gradual process. Rome was not built in a day. So I think it's a similar thing. The fact that the government is working towards universal electricity by the end of 2026, I think is very, very important for the Gambia, because rural development matters a lot, and it will help to avoid rural urban drift, because most people are moving from the rural areas to the urban areas. But equally as well, importantly, it will help to expand agriculture, because I've been to communities in CRR, like in Boiran, which is around Brikhamaba. They travel some kilometers to get to Brikhamaba to have access to electricity, to be able to do milling and other activities. So I think it will really help business and agriculture.
Yes, we'll come to that finally. But this is the thing, it's taking a long time, and we haven't come to the end of the process yet, because it's really hard work from aspirational to operational, isn't it? Stuff like that. But the estimates, that it's interesting here. Well, we are told that we've moved within the last year or so from 73% as it were, to 90. Well, when I looked at the World Bank sources, what they've got was what had done in 2023, where they gave us about 66 or 67 percent. So this is the key. Some sources have said that because all the figures we are getting now, they are government figures. We haven't got independent data from the World Bank or these big bodies, reputable bodies known for this kind of research. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that is one interesting thing, and the fact that you have got different figures, but the bottom line is over the years there has been a lot of investment, and we have seen a lot of projects like the Rural Electricity Modification and Modernization Project, and the Ecowas project, Access project as well. These are all projects, So it tells you a lot about like the seriousness of these projects and the importance of like focusing on such projects towards making sure that like the country achieve its development goals, because they should not be taken lightly. It's for the people.
Yes, I get your point there.
Yes.
In that even should we have an independent report that says that perhaps these figures were slightly exaggerated, the broader picture is there is tangible progress, improvement in going towards the goal, as it were. Sure. We think that we can do it in 2026. Well, time will tell.
And I can tell you as well, where I live, I hardly have like experienced power outages, which is a very important like a milestone as well. So
absolutely.
It tells a lot about our electricity, growth as a country.
Yes, it certainly, it signals, it registers, doesn't it? A certain change. But what is it? Maybe we need a longer perspective to really judge the effect, isn't it? Sure. So finally, but now the effect on communities, quite extraordinary. For me, the first thing I thought about was the comfort, the quality of life, isn't it? That's the first. Then we talk about economics and education and health and all of that. But that relief at home, that's priceless.
Imagine I was in CRR, in CRR North, I drank like cold water. I was in Kunting, I was super surprised, and this was like the usual one here. So people are really enjoying this electricity, in upcountry, and it is really helping economic wise. It is helping them, to generate a lot of income. And this is what the government should do to create the enabling environment so that people can thrive. And I think it is really on course. It's not a privilege as well, because people are paying taxes, and that is why they voted for the government. And it also demonstrates that like development should continue. It should evolve. It should not be like party-centered, or it should not be politicized. When you go to other countries, development is all about the people, and that is subject to Abraham Lincoln's definition of democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Fantastic. So we can sum it up, really greater safety here, because no more kerosene scandals and stuff like that. The comfort we talked about, connectivity, watching TV, the internet, stuff like that. Thank you very much there, Mr. Jatta. Now to our next story. During the week, the government officially launched what is called a digital portal and mobile application, gov.gm. Let's just take a look and listen.
The launch of gov.gm, the Gambia's government digital portal and mobile app, is a major step towards digital transformation. The launch of the portal is likely to be greatly welcomed. Stakeholders have long complained about government officials using Gmail accounts while conducting official business. As well as fixing this long-standing matter, it improved access to government services for citizens, business and tourists, providing information on regulations, permits and tourism services anytime, anywhere. The platform promotes transparency, efficiency and convenience, support business growth and investment, and enhances the country's tourism sector by making government services more accessible and inclusive. gov.gm strengthens governance and helps build a more connected and modern society.
That's it for businesses, yes. I'm sure later on we'll go into how they will benefit.
The businesses,
But very interesting one there, because around the world people are doing it, and this one I understand that it aligns with, we've got this policy and roadmap called the Gambia's National Digital Economy Master Plan and Digital Government Policy and Roadmap, which really wants to transform public service delivery through digital means. And with this one, streamlining the relationship, the interaction, isn't it, between citizens and government. Welcome to the modern age.
This portal and platform is very important for the Gambia. I think it's long overdue. Actually, we have got like other government platforms, and non-government platforms actually. But the thing is, like, this is the first centralized platform which involve different, areas of the government. It is, strictly towards making sure that, like, the public has access, like, to government services, which is clearly, I've been through the app just this afternoon. I've seen various services, like from passport, from issues about, election, tax payment. Now, in the past, we have got the Marble Gambia, designed by Gambia Participates, Teacher app by Mohas, to enhance studying and courses for students, and equally as well the digital rental income tax by GRA. But now all of these apps, all of these activities are improvised in this platform, which is very important. I think it will make life easy for the citizens. Like we said in the area of electrification, in this app, this app also demonstrates that the Gambia is on course actually, because this is what I see internationally. Everything is tailored in one app where somebody could buy internet, could have access to the subways and flight tickets. So it's very crucial for the Gambia.
And it will be real time. You'll get real time notifications and updates.
Indeed.
That is absolutely crucial here, isn't it? So this is the key, providing the right information for everybody, including businesses, like regulations, licensing processes, and all sorts of things. That's it. Compliance.
So this is why the Access to Information Act is important. Because as a country, for far too long, we have been disconnected. Not just digitally, but information-wise, we have been disconnected. And I think this is important for the country, in terms of, because citizens have to know their rights. They need to know what services is the government providing. So one important thing about this platform, it is also going to serve as an information hub. Citizens will get to have news about government policies and so forth, which is very important because they have the right. They employ the government to serve them, to work on their behalf. So this is quite important and commendable from the side of the government.
Absolutely. So the next one, I once heard sort of former Singaporean President Lee Kuan Yew. He said, when you innovate, when you bring new technologies, new ideas, as it were, to implement, your people also have to change certain habits.
The mindset.
So, absolutely.
Indeed.
So that you will get the maximum effect that you need this technology for.
Sure.
So it seems every technology has its own temperament. If you do not have that, then it undermines everything you do. And for us, that has been our problem.
Indeed. We have got a very beautiful platform, and its continuity and effectiveness is a thing. But I will tell you, Mr. Mboj, the world has evolved, trust me, in terms of digitally. So I think that is one area, there has to be a lot of sensitization, a lot of campaigns on TV so that people will get to use these apps. It's mobile apps now, apps like Q Money. You don't need to go with your physical cards. You can just pay with Q Money. So that is important. This is what is happening globally. And I think as far as the Gambia has taken this step, we are on course. Like you said, we just need to enlighten the minds, and before we know, we are there.
Thank you very much, Usman Jatta. Now to our next story. During the week, the Banjul High Court acquitted and discharged former military officer Abdullah Sanyang. He had been charged with arson and judicial interference. Let's just take a listen.
The ruling was delivered on Tuesday by Justice Ibrahim Ojaite, who held that the prosecution failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. Sanyang was standing trial on 2 counts. The first related to the 2016 burning of the APRC bureau in Kanifing South, while the second stemmed from remarks he allegedly made during a radio interview on West Coast Radio in August 2025, which the state argued were intended to incite disaffection against the president. The accused pleaded not guilty to both charges. During the trial, the prosecution called 7 witnesses and tendered documentary and electronic evidence. The case was largely based on statements Sanyang allegedly made during a live radio program in which he was said to have described certain court proceedings as clandestine and claimed involvement in financing the arson attack. Haj Abdullah Sanyang on all counts, following submissions by the state indicating its intention to appeal. The court admitted Sanyang to bail in the sum of $50,000 with one Gambian surety.
Yes, quite interesting in there, because for some of us, when the case was taken to court, we sort of raised up our eyebrows and said, you're taking this one seriously. That was very interesting. So now, the ruling
Indeed.
Was it George Justice Chaite, when he said that, well, burning of the APRC bureau really was not in dispute. But the sole witness testified that the perpetrators were masked.
Yeah.
So could not be identified.
Indeed.
Something as simple as that. I wonder, why did you take it to court?
Indeed, there's a huge lesson in this ruling, and I think every Gambian should learn from it, and should understand how courts operate. Courts don't just operate based on hearsay, what someone said, but they judge based on the evidence that is provided before it. And you have seen what the central witness or the sole witness said. These individuals were in masks, the perpetrators were in masks, despite the fact that he said, in a radio program that, they took part in it. But the witness, so there is some sort of conflict of interest, between the accused and the witness. So you can see a lot in the ruling, but I think, like I said, the court mostly rely on evidence that is provided.
Of course,
before them.
even Justice Jaita said, suspicion or public disapproval will cannot replace proof in criminal proceedings. Very, very interesting statement there. So this is it. What can we learn from it? I don't know. Suppose some of us might ask those who took the case to court, what were you relying on for you to take the case to court?
So that is another aspect of it. So that is why the state has also filed for an appeal of the ruling, because they feel the case is not very light to some extent, for the judge, for the High Court judge, and that is Ibrahim Ojeda, to just rule like that. It's like citing what the statements the guy said, we burned down the APRC bureau. I further read, we facilitated this, I am part of it. So it's a bit complicated, and we hope to see what the Court of Appeal will decide on it actually. But it carries a lot of lessons, and one of the lessons is, as members of the public, we should be careful of how we speak when we talk on on the media, because at the end of the day, your statement could be defamatory or something else, and it could lead you to the court, in the case of Abdullah Sanya.
Yes, absolutely. We are done with this story, really. But just because he said that, it doesn't end there when it comes with the courts. What's the evidence? Who saw him? The sole witness said they were all masked. So these things are important. Never mind the confession. That is taken into account, obviously.
Indeed.
But there are other considerations taken into account that lay people we do not know. Thank you very much.
That's it.
Now we go on to our next story. During the week, the Gambia Police Force organized a series of activities, really, what they call the basic fitness test for recruits. Let's just take a look and listen.
Physical examination, and today we are doing the BFT. So the BFT is one of the processes, because from here they are going to also go into another process that we call the medical examination.
Physical resilience, from chasing suspects and controlling crowds to conducting long foot patrols. Ensuring recruits meet minimum fitness standards is crucial to building a capable, responsive and effective police force. Musa Player, Chief Superintendent of Gambia Police Force, elaborates on how physical readiness corresponds with operational effectiveness.
We are sat there. couldn't tell us how it improves, but evidently physical fitness bound to improve operational efficiency. Sometimes you have to chase suspects, and in the context of where you've got protests and large crowds, you need so much stamina, to be on top of things sometimes for a very long time. It is obvious that we need this. So for me, it was curious that, yes, we have a structure, a system of recruitment. This is one of them. Apparently there'll be medical screening, personality, evaluation tests, and all sorts of things.
I think this is important because...
And even written examinations.
Yes, because if, looking at the physical part of it, it's a foundation of every security job. If you're not physically prepared, up there, it's going to be very difficult for you to execute your job. But the most important aspect of it is that it is like making sure that there is quality in our police force, which is important in terms of strength, in terms of like endurance and agility, and equally as well the physical examination, which is important because like people, you don't just need anyone in the police force, because the police force is an organized system, an organized organization like that is representing like the executive, you know, so they're there to execute like the laws. So in doing so, you need people. You don't just need anyone like that. So it's very important, and I think it's a key part of the Gambia's security sector reform. You know, making sure that, you know, we get the right people in the system, because you represent the state to some extent. So it's very important and crucial.
Absolutely. But for us as citizens, we've realized that sometimes, I wouldn't say all, the official narrative is one thing. Our experiences of things quite a different narrative, isn't it? So we insist on, obviously, yes, you have to do this, but it doesn't end there. It comes with, just as they've said, they have to Britain test. There are all sorts of things going on, and others to make them more efficient.
But the module
can one feel, as it were, the effect in the same way, for instance, that one is feeling the effect of the improved electricity supply? Everybody's talking about it, isn't it? So there has to be that perception, isn't it? It has to reach that level before people perhaps can change their attitude. So I'm not sure whether one can feel it in that sense, as it were, that generally policing has massively improved. We're not sure about that. One sees a lot of presence, perhaps, the highway, the Bertil Harding Highway, given
presence, of course.
That sort of thing, yes. But that is one thing, isn't it? Effectiveness, how it affects, as it were, rates, how it affects statistics. Do we have that? So we have to be realistic.
Indeed, it's another side of this story, actually. Like having the number matters. Like in last year, in 2025, we had the highest number of like intakes, 1,336 intakes, you know, were recruited like in the police. And but most importantly as well, they covered like 70 modules, like from crime, public order, you know, and so forth. So I think that is important in that sense. But equally as well, like you mentioned, the effectiveness, feeling it, you know, becomes a problem.
How has that sort of changed the figures?
Translated.
Yes, how has it reconfigured in terms of the rates of crime have gone down? You see, that kind of narrative would have been, look, since we've been doing this, the rates of crime have gone down by A, B, C, and D, and there are improvements here and there.
But do you think, do you, I know that is important, but do you think having all of these things would eventually lower the rate of crime? Crimes may go up, but how effectively also they respond to crimes also matters. You know, we have heard of like bank robberies in the country here, and you know, eventually we have seen like they have captured like culprits and so forth. I think that is one aspect of it as well.
But absolutely, this is the key, because one or two examples, incidents, do not quite give you the picture. You know what I mean? When you follow it, you might suspect that there is this avalanche, if you feel like, of crime, when it's not like that. So it's important for one to be subtle about this.
Sure.
You know, the longer-term projections. That's really where the truth lies.
I think we have
cannot
to
finish this.
We also have
this
to
is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a good thing. They, you know, physically they fit, but there will be other, aptitudes they need as well. Thank you very much there. To our fifth story, midway point of this program, and FLAG, the Female Lawyers Association in Gambia, they organized a forum to push for women's participation in political decision making, and I suppose in other areas as well. Let's take a look at this.
In the Gambia, while women make up approximately 57% of the country's registered electorate, they remain vastly underrepresented in decision-making bodies, holding only 5 of the 58 seats in the National Assembly, 3 out of the country's 23 cabinet positions, and 15% of local councillorship positions. This elected representation is amongst the lowest in Africa. Such gaps often...
Participation is not a favor to be granted, it is a right to be claimed. The Gambia stands at an important moment in its democratic journey. If we're serious about building a new political culture, one rooted in accountability, inclusion, and justice, then women must not just participate, they must also lead. Change will not happen because we hope for it. It will happen because we demand it, design it, and drive it.
Honorable Fatuma Tanjai.
Yes, I think that was the Vice President of FLAG. Yes,
Like,
Senghor. Yes, with change, you have to drag it sort of into the present, as it were.
Indeed.
Kicking and screaming. This has been our experience here anyway. So, what do you think? How do these organizations, these forums, as it were, how do you think they sort of shift, as it were, the argument?
So starting from starting with the argument, like women representation in the country, I think it's a very crucial topic, and it has been debated for a long time in the country. And I think with organizations like this coming into play, it will really help in terms of creating like a sense of enlightenment. Because for me, I think it's not about like the qualifications. These days we have got a lot of females, a lot of women like with good qualifications, with good readiness, like to man various positions in the country. It's a matter of like enlightenment, like to make sure that this trend continues. Though there is a lot of gap. That is why we are talking about we are talking about it today. So, but there has to be a lot of sensitization, and this has to start from our education system, like in schools. This has to start from somewhere. It does not just happen overnight.
Yes, this is very interesting. There, you said there's no enlightenment, as if you're sort of attributing the issue, the problem, with our lack of enlightenment. Is that how you see it? There's a lack of enlightenment. That's why we haven't seen massive strides in
because
gender inclusion.
That is just one part of it, actually. But you look at our societal setup as well, like the way our society is set up. Sometimes society holds certain beliefs that like men should be the one to lead, without women. But recently we have seen that like those are just like they are just, how do I call it? They are just opinions, actually. They're just opinions. They don't matter, actually. You go to different parts of the world, you see, female architects, you see female flight attendants, female pilots. Women are breaking those, norms. So I think it's really possible, what men can do, women can do, but it depends on the way our society is structured. This is the problem, and that is why when I mentioned the issue of enlightenment, we have to be enlightened, and we align ourselves to the trends of the moment, which is very, very important to some extent. Because to be candid enough, I can tell you the world has evolved, and as a country, we are moving, and we have a long way.
You're like, the norms are very interesting there. But what you said, what men can do, women can do. So sort of a naughty thought just entered my head. The fastest man in the world in the 100 meters will always beat the fastest woman in the world. To our next story. That will take us to the halfway point. Don't go away. We have 5 more stories to go through.
QCell brings you the future with our ultimate bundles. Enjoy the best voice and data bundle plans in one package. Get unlimited data packages with flexible validity and enjoy what true internet feels like. Get 30 minutes of on-net and off-net calls with 5 gigabytes of data for just $350. Or get bigger bundle packages from 10 gigabytes to 20 gigabytes with over 100 on-net and off-net voice calls and enjoy the fastest internet speed in the Gambia. You can also buy 1-day, 3-day or even 7-day packages and enjoy unlimited data bundles with uncapped speeds. Just dial *343# today and experience the limitless capabilities of the QCell network. *343# should be your favorite code to dial now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell. We innovate, others follow.
We are back here watching the Week in Review, and today I've got my colleague, the journalist, Usman Jatta, to help me crunch the data, if you like. We've already done 5 stories, but you've got 5 more to go. So to the next one, the National Human Rights Commission organized a validation forum on what is called the monitoring framework for the National Advisory Council for Persons with Disabilities. Let's just take a look and listen.
There is a need to have a very clear monitoring framework that council members can rely upon in the event of discharging our duties and responsibilities. And as such, an expert hearing a consultant is hired to come up with these monitoring tools or mechanism.
Advisory Council indeed is the engine of the act. It is the driving force. But to effectively carry out its responsibilities, the Council requires practical tools, clear indicators, and a structured approach to monitoring.
Yes, we heard the last of the two, that was Emmanuel Daniel Juve, who's the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. And earlier, we heard from Mohammed Krubli, the magistrate. He's the chairperson of the National Advisory Council for Persons with Disabilities. Quite interesting there. According to Krubli, this is a critical step because it's really, in many ways, it provides a platform for persons with disabilities that really, on the at the national and institutional level, which they say they haven't had much representation. So what do you think?
This is like, should I say it's a bit alarming? Like, as a country, we are still struggling, like, to have proper representation of like persons with disability, which is very, like sad to some extent, actually. But he mentioned something very important: monitoring. It matters a lot because despite like various laws and commitments, you still get to understand that like the persons with disabilities are being sidelined to some extent. You go to
a massive extent. Let me just cut you there because so that we can put it in context. Sort of even with the story, as it were, aligning with the story, our previous story about with women. You see our norms, the stigmas, as it were, that were associated as well with this. Being a woman, you've got your role, and when you have disability, people sort of like see you as sometimes we ascribe that to some divine whatever, to some occult causes.
Not only
and
that.
then we feel sorry for you, pity. There's pity instead of the respect. As they say, just because I cannot see, for instance, doesn't mean that my brain is not working. You know what I mean? I can be doing all sorts of things. That's why some people call it being differently disabled. I don't know, something like or differently abled, as it were. They can do other things. So this is the key. It's just a maturity, moving away from the traditional way.
I think beyond the traditional way as well, the willingness is a bit lacking, actually. Now, in the past, we did a story with persons with hearing, like hard of hearing, like people, like at Carnifing, actually. We engaged them, and what their main concern is, like, they have challenges in terms of like people getting their students having jobs, like securing jobs in public offices. That was one of the concerns they raised. But it also raises a question: do we have like a special course at the college where they train people like on how to like guide, like to have like a persons of hearing like difficulties in public offices? That way around, you can employ them. Once you employ them, they can help with the coordination. They can serve as translators, as in other countries where translation is a major like a job. Like people take it.
Are you talking about positive discrimination?
Yes. So this is something like we really need to work on. Like we have to come up with systems that align, that support their integration in society. If those things aren't in place, it's going to be very difficult. Now, if you want to employ somebody like a person of hearing difficulty, like you need someone else like to also help you, like to be able to communicate with him. So this is what I'm saying. We need to have these things in the system, like incorporated in our education system in such a way that they can also be part, because they are part of society.
Yes, I was thinking about the sort of employment level where you draw up a short list of persons with disability only. That's really how you make it positive to get them in. But that's a different point.
Yeah.
Thank you very much there, Usman Jatta. Now to our next point, during the week as well, the world marked International Day of Women and Girls in Science, often called STEM, on the 11th of February. Let's just take a look and listen.
The day promotes the full and equal participation of women and girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM, while emphasizing the role of innovation in sustainable development. Globally, governments and development partners continue investing in ICT education, digital skills training, and youth innovation programs aimed at encouraging more girls to pursue science-related careers. Although girls' enrollment in schools has improved over the years, women remain underrepresented in technical and scientific fields worldwide. And they awarded scholarships to 20 UTG STEM students, 8 of whom are girls, and WeSTEM has over 1,000 members, reaching more than 2,000 women and girls across 50 schools. Within 3 years, WeSTEM has delivered over 50 STEM-focused programs. Marina International School hosted its annual Science Week this year, beginning with an engaging STEM lecture and followed by extensive science fair featuring student projects in biology, chemistry, and physics. The event sought to inspire students to explore STEM careers by showcasing real-world applications and promoting hands-on experiments.
That's it. Showcasing real-world applications. That's very interesting. And promoting hands-on experiments. There's been a lot of STEM, hasn't it? Really, especially girls and women in STEM.
Indeed.
Even though our intake of girls in secondary level is high, but so underrepresented in technical areas, aren't they?
So, like I said earlier, like there has to be a lot of mindset shift towards some of these things. Actually, you know, there are a lot of areas women can venture into, but it all depends on how we take things. You know, how sometimes how we only limit them to certain areas. You know. So there are opportunities out there they can really venture into. And the world is digital, actually. And now to survive in the world, you really need to be like technologically oriented. So I think it's important like to invest into like women, like to also like a lot of like investment into women in STEM, actually, which is very important. We have seen, like he mentioned, like the likes of Q Group Foundation and WeSTEM, you know, are really doing a lot lately. And the Gambia is really performing well when it comes to like international competitions, which is a very positive story to talk about. So I think it's important, you know, it's a matter of like the enlightenment should continue in our schools and make sure that, you know, we have the right people and the orientation as well. Sometimes like people, like most students, you know, are not properly oriented as to, you know, what they can become, you know. So sometimes the way our systems are designed, you know, we struggle at school. I take myself as an example. Like growing up, I knew I wanted to work in the media. So, but someone might find that difficult. So you need some counseling.
Okay, absolutely. But you're a boy, you don't count. Thank you very much there, Usman Jatta. Now to our next story. Ecowas Commission sort of convened a 3-day meeting of experts on telecommunications on validating the final report on the implementation of regulations that govern roaming on public mobile communication networks. Let's just take a look and listen.
A recent report by the Ecowas Commission revealed that more than half of the regional bloc's member states have implemented at least one bilateral roaming agreement since its adoption in 2023. These arrangements allow citizens and businesses to use mobile services across borders at reduced cost, delivering significant savings to consumers and facilitating regional trade and mobility. Therefore, to further advance this objective, the Ecowas Commission convened representatives from ICT ministries, national regulatory authorities,
the West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly, WATRA, and Smart Africa. As
regional objectives, the NCA has actively supported implementation of roaming initiatives within West Africa. Ghana currently has active bilateral free roaming arrangements with Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, and the Gambia, and we are having further engagements currently ongoing with other member states, including Nigeria.
We are here because our goal is clear. We want to actually make a difference to our community citizens. We want to advance the effective implementation of the Ecowas regulation on roaming to ensure that all our community citizens actually have affordable roaming.
It is the belief that these final reports will target the revision of the roaming regulation and the adoption of the implementation guidelines and the M&E framework.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered quite a bit of these reports on developmental, as it were, milestones of some sort, but this is so hugely significant with the project of regional integration. Now, so much of what we do relies on our mobile phones. So we have to get this working. And in many ways, for the whole continent, this is really the linchpin, the backbone, as it were, of that African continental free trade, isn't it? The technology must be in place before you can move on.
I would take Europe as an example. You take the euro, when you travel across Europe, you use euro. So it's really important. It's a very important initiative for West Africa, Ecowas, because it is really going to help regional integration. It's really, really important. And the fact that Gambia is one of the countries really trying to make sure that they achieve this goal actually, because now with some of our mobile GSM operators, you can really roam around, like QCell is one example, which is very important. You go to Sierra Leone, you can use QCell, Guinea. So it's a gradual thing and it's really happening, and this is going to expose our GSM operators to other markets, expand our reach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. To our next story, during the week, the Gambia hosted the West African Postal Conference. I'm sure you're all wondering, postal? Let's just take a look and listen.
There's a certain irony in the Gambia, a country with an almost non-existent postal service, hosting this conference. The 4-day event also serves as the 3rd ordinary session of the Council of Ministers and the 6th ordinary session of the Council of Administration of the West African Postal Conference. The conference brings together ministers, regulators, postal operators and development partners from across West Africa.
As the Gambia embraces digital transformation, its postal service stands poised to integrate technology-driven solutions while preserving its foundational mission to provide fast and reliable delivery services that meet the timeline and budget of our customers.
WAPCO under discussions include e-commerce development, logistics, financial inclusion, policy harmonization, and the adaptation of new technologies to improve service delivery across the region.
Yes, very interesting there, isn't it? We heard from the Vice President and Mohamed B. Jallow. So one would wonder, in the world of email, courier services, and mobile money, that sort of thing, do postal services still matter?
They matter, of course. Like it's maybe in the Gambia we don't have them to that level, as effective as they could be. But you go to other countries, you see these services are still alive. People get deliveries. I received deliveries, when I was in China, actually, so you'll be surprised, because already my system, I've registered my mobile phone, and it works so well. They knock on your door to tell you, we have this for you, But this is important for West Africa, but equally as well, it raises a lot of challenges in terms of postal services. I think we also have to work on reigniting our postal services, and that means we also have to work on our addresses, the street namings and so forth, is very important, because you cannot have an effective postal service without those things into place.
Absolutely. That's it. I asked the question the way I did to be more provocative. We know that letter volumes have declined globally.
Indeed.
But something else has come up. Parcel delivery is growing.
Yeah.
Because of online activity.
Yeah.
Now we do so much commerce online,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
buy all sorts of things. But it's got to be delivered to a place, to a house.
A place, yes,
That's
yes.
it. So this is where a new avenue, as it were, has opened up for postal services.
It's just integration, actually, and with tech, all of this is possible. It doesn't even have to be delivered to the house. Like, you go to other countries, they have like postal boxes in the streets. They send you a message, and with that message you can easily collect the item you ordered for. So it's just a matter of like integrating, and it's still part of the system, because it's technology, and like people have to use it in other ways around. So it's a matter of just like trying to change the old systems and connect it to the latest trends, and that's it, actually.
That's it. There's certainly opportunity.
Because it is really going to improve like that trade we are talking about as well, because we are talking about online business, where people buy stuffs online, and it has to be delivered.
That's it. And I'm saying that really quickly, that especially in rural areas, really where banking structures really are quite limited, as it were, banking services. So they could be a community financial hub.
Indeed.
So opportunities are absolutely there.
Indeed.
It depends on how we do it. Thank you very much. Now, to our final story, we've got a few minutes here. The Moroccan caftan, well, had some recognition by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage. But that has sparked some controversy. Let's just take a look and listen.
Form to the Moroccan caftan, the Gambian version is looser, simpler in cut, and decorated with local embroidery and lace. Its significance lies in communal celebration and the preservation of family and cultural traditions.
Allahu Akbar.
It has become such a part of Gambian tradition that it has become customary for people to wear kaftans on Fridays. The nation of the Moroccan kaftan at UNESCO is not without controversy. Algeria argues that the kaftan is part of a shared Maghreb heritage, including Algeria and Tunisia, and proposed that UNESCO recognize it as a regional tradition rather than solely Moroccan. Algeria says Morocco's exclusive claim ignores historical exchange and similar garments in neighboring countries. UNESCO ultimately rejected Algeria's amendment confirming the kaftan under Morocco's nomination. Both the
I have to be honest with you here, Usman. For me, I never really knew it as the Moroccan kaftan. I didn't know. For me, it was just the kaftan, this traditional, really long and ornate robe as an Arab culture. So I'm a bit with Algeria. But when I read it, I said, well, for UNESCO to reject as it were, that objection, I said, perhaps there's more to history that I do not know.
There is more to it. Actually, when I did my research, I also came to understand that this kaftan thing did not only start in Morocco. Actually, it could be traced from like the Ottoman Empire, So, like, there's a long line.
So this is interesting.
Yes.
So Morocco also got it from somebody else.
So you can see the argument of Algeria that, like, it should be a regional thing instead of like being just prescribed to only one country. So I think that it's kind of like, it's arguably it's a valuable. One could say it's a valuable argument, like to some extent, to say like.
So it's as if it's really a relic from you said Ottoman Empire. And then when they came, it spread to all of them. But now it's as if Morocco is claiming ownership over it.
Because if you go to Morocco, they have a different style. In Saudi Arabia, it's a different style. So this is what also came to West Africa, during the transatlantic, like trans-Saharan trade to some extent.
Yeah,
so we
slave
also
trade. It was a slave trade. There was other trade, but there was a slave trade at some point.
At least our experience with the Arab world, has also, given us some aspect of this, like kaftan, that we also have here to some extent. So you get to understand that, it started from somewhere, but it's UNESCO. They might have better reasons to why they chose Morocco instead of like just making it a regional thing as argued by
Absolutely, but it doesn't matter really. It shouldn't be that serious, isn't it? And it provides us, as it were, with a talking point, with a subject to talk about, but really nothing to bring about a diplomatic incident.
Yeah.
Thank you very much there, Usman Jata. We've come to the end of the program. Until next week, Ade Darame will have been back. We hope, we just never know. Bye-bye.